Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson. Apologies for yesterday, man. I got all the way through the show, saved it, got ready to upload it, and it said the file was corrupted. So we had to run some updates and things like that. So hopefully we get through this without any trouble today. I'd hate to have to do it again tomorrow, but we've tested the equipment. It looks like everything is okay. So again, my apologies. It was kind of out of my control, but nevertheless, here we are. I'll be back tomorrow at some point and back with you on Friday. On Wednesday, we'll talk a little bit more about some basketball stuff. We'll just kind of see how it goes. But that's the beauty of having your own show. You can set the agenda. It's been a few days since we played the ball game. Not going to do a full recap, but I am going to talk about a few things related to that game. We got a lot of portal stuff to talk about, obviously. And pretty cool top 10 list. And so we'll kind of get to all of that kind of as we go. But, it's portal season in earnest now. Mississippi State now up to 6 portal commitments. And a couple things that I want to say about that, too, is like I think we're doing okay? But we've got to pick it up on the offensive line side. Everybody knows that. The level of success we expect to have in 2026 as a football program is going to be determined by the quality of offensive linemen that we procure out of the portal during the month of January. It doesn't matter how many great receivers you get, how many dynamic defensive backs you get. If we don't have people that can block for us, it's going to be a long year. Simple as that. You guys saw it, right? You don't need me to give you some insider information. You saw it just as well as I did. We all watch the same games, but the reality of it is we have to have some success on the offensive line side. And people say, well, Steve, is it time to panic? No. We're just 4 days into this process. Am I concerned? Yes. Am I panicking? No. But we've got to go out and get 5-6 guys that can be on the 2 deep next year. We've got to get some guys that are starters and potential starters. And so that's a well-established fact that in many respects, that's how the cow will eat the cabbage in the transfer portal. The quality of this portal class will be determined by our ability to meet our needs, and we don't have a need more glaring than the offensive line. And so far, we've got 1 guy committed. Now, granted, again, we've still got a couple weeks to work through all this, all the way up to the drop-add date, so technically 3 more weeks. But it kind of is what it is. But I know many of you are like, hey, Steve, hey, that's a great guy we got there. But, and I'll be honest with you, that gets a little tiresome, right? Like we can't celebrate what we got because we're so preoccupied with what we need. And I understand that. And I know that it comes from a good place. But it's also disrespectful to that player that commits to us that we can't even enjoy that without us harping on the other, right? Just my feeling. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of the show. Man, we love Bulldog Burger Company. We do. We love them. And the Eat With Us group has always been there for us to celebrate all of our special occasions here in Starkville, whether it be a graduation, whether it be a wedding announcement, a rehearsal dinner. We've depended on them for many years, and they've always been there. Bulldog Burger Company, always there for you as well, too. Find your own favorites. I'm kind of partial to the pimentology add bacon. I've had a lot of people that said, Steve, I would have never ordered that, but because you harped on it so much, I tried it. I love it. I do, too. And have the spring rolls as your appetizer to make you and everybody around you better looking. Get that chocolate shake to go. You can ride that ride home with a smile. Maybe get the bread pudding. I love the bread pudding, man. I'm a bread pudding connoisseur. And so maybe you get that, put that in the refrigerator and have it for a late night snack. Nothing quite as fun as that. 3 great locations to serve you. University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowwood area. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. Okay, let's just kind of give an overview. Kind of looking back at the game. I know you guys disappointed like I am. And we were nearly even more disappointed, as you guys know, as Camario Taylor took a shot late in that ball game. But kind of a few things that I wanted to point out. Again, we're not going to have a full recap, anything quite like that. But I do wanted to go over some things that I thought were noteworthy. In kind of respects, I guess, maybe kind of 5 things that kind of jump out. Right out of the gate, we go out, we get the big explosive, and I was so happy to see that, right? Let's go let them know they're in a fight. Go out there and throw a haymaker. Well, we do. We lay it up there, a little bit underthrown, but Brennan Thompson makes a sliding catch. And, just like that, we're in business. But then things bog down. We talked about that in our preview a little bit. One of the things that Wake Forest had been really good about this year is forcing teams to settle for field goal attempts in the red zone. Well, we did a lot of that too. The script held in that respect. But you start working through this thing, and it's just like, okay, all right, so at the end of the day, we struck first. We come out, we get the big shot, we get points on the board. Now we kind of settle in. Then we mishit a kick. And Kyle Ferry's been so good for us all year. On this one, I don't know if he's just a little bit amped up or whatever, but he mishits it, ends up being a line drive right to him, 100-yard return. And then, as you guys know, they go for 2, make it 8-3. And I think, again, we may have served the opening salvo, but they came back and said, we're here to fight too. Well, then, we kind of go through some malaise here. But the Bulldog defense actually played pretty well in that first half. We get the stop, and then Ferry gets another field goal, makes it 8-6. And again, it's a drive where things kind of bog down for us. You put together a 6-play, 42-yard drive, and you think, all right, well, let's find a way to kind of make some things happen. Well, we inch a little bit closer, so now we need a stop. Well, we don't get one. They go down and score, kick the extra point. Now it's a 2-score game. We trade punts, and then we get down there to kind of close out the quarter. And I thought this was a mistake, okay? And I said it on press row. I'll say it again now. It's a mistake. Part of coaching is applying pressure to the opponent. It is a 9-point game, which makes it a 2-score game. We should take the field goal. And I think we got a little bit impatient here. Because if you begin to think about this, if you make the field goal and make it a 15-9 game, now you're a touchdown away from taking the lead with the extra point. You got to put them in a position where they have to answer. But instead, we go for it, and it wasn't even close. It's like 4th and 1.5. We end up losing 2 yards. Offensive line just got destroyed on the play. And so you give them the chance to ignite their sideline and ignite their crowd. If you just take the field goal here, and there's no guarantee you make it, but with Kyle Ferry, I've got a lot of confidence that he's going to put that thing to the uprights. All of a sudden, it's a 6-point game. But instead, it remains a 2-score game, and then they are now rejuvenated. Well, then your Bulldog defense kind of stands up, and you have the opportunity, again, put together a 10-play drive. You get down there close again. We end up having to settle for the field goal. Couldn't put it in the end zone. Well, now it's 15-9. Had we taken the field goal, it would have been 15-12, right? So, again, kind of like we talked about, they're kind of forcing us to settle for these field goals. Then we get another stop. So now you get the ball back late in the half in a 15-9 ball game, and we just couldn't do anything with it. And then when it looked like Wake Forest may have a chance to go 2 for 1 to close the half with a score and then get the ball coming out, we get a Brown near interception. And then we can't do anything with it. And granted, there wasn't a lot of time left, but we just basically decided to get into the half. And so, again, I think some missed opportunities here, but I think a lot of this falls to us. Give them a lot of credit, right, for forcing us to have to kick field goals. But if you go back and you look at what your Bulldog defense did in that first half, right? So they have the big kickoff return. Well, that's on special teams. It's a special teams miscue. We'll just kind of call it for what it is. Well, then you look at the rest of the second half drives. Here's what you got. Punt, touchdown, punt, 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 interception. That's it. That's all you gave up. And you start adding the numbers here, and it's really not bad. You had a couple of 3-and-outs in there, and, of course, then you have the 2-play drive that ends in an interception. So the Bulldog defense, over the totality of the game, maybe didn't fare quite as well, but I think if you go back and look at the first half objectively, the defense played exceptionally well with only giving up really the one sustained drive. And I still think we should have had a pick on that ball in the end zone. Hunter Washington gets beat, and we have a DB, ranging over there, and we just couldn't find the football. But outside of that, Bulldog defense played well. And I think if you just look at the box score, maybe you don't have the proper context for how maybe well the defense played. The offense did not hold up their end of the deal. And I think that's a fair assessment. I think everybody would agree with that. Now you look at Mississippi State's first half possessions. Field goal, punt. Field goal, punt. Turnover on downs, field goal, punt, half. Right? We knew that we were going to have to score touchdowns. And their red zone defense proved to be better than our red zone offense. But we had some opportunities. Of course, Camario gets knocked out of the game, and Luke has to play. But, again, you look at that first half, and you feel like, you know what? We're right there in this thing. If we can get a stop to open the second half, got a good chance. Well, we don't, right? We don't. 3-play, 75-yard touchdown drive, and I still don't understand how that guy got behind our defense. I haven't gone back to watch it. But now all of a sudden, instead of it being a 15-9 game, it is a 23-9 game because they go for 2 to make it a 2-touchdown game. And it's a punt, touchdown, touchdown, half, right? So, again, you give up one scoring drive in the first half, but then in the second half, give them some credit for making some halftime adjustments. But it's a 4-touchdown half for them. Not great. Not great. And then you look at kind of what we did, down in the second half, and kind of created some opportunities for ourselves. It's a punt, then it's a field goal, touchdown. And as you guys are well aware, really one of the big moments of this ball game is when they had a chance to put us away with about 4 minutes left. And then Nave Sanders, I still don't know how it wasn't leaping. Maybe one of you rules experts can message me. We blocked the extra point, and then Kelly Jones scoops it up, returns it for 2. And we talk about igniting your sideline. Well, then all of a sudden, here we are. As bad as we've played, we have the opportunity to go steal one. It felt like Florida all over again. It's like, we hadn't played exceptionally well, but we kept punching. And now kind of here we are, still in the mix, still with an opportunity. It's 36-29, and you have the football with 4:07 to play. And so at the very least, you think, hey, we can put together a game-tying drop. Well, the very first play, Camario makes a mistake. We try to get it out on the perimeter. We throw it behind him. We basically lose 8 yards there, and it kills the drive. So right at the gate, it's second 17 and a half, second 18. We end up having a punt, and then you put them in a scenario, too, where they're in a third and medium type situation, and we're starting to feel it a little bit. Start thinking, hey, we got a chance here to get off the field, give our offense one final chance. And what do you know? Ashford gets us with that little shovel pass, kind of like that Dan Mullen-esque Utah, Florida shovel pass. And Ty Clark goes untouched to the end zone. And that puts the game away. It does. And, of course, as you guys know, on that final offensive drive for us, Camario gets hit, and I will be honest with you. I turned to Robbie Falk as soon as this happened, and I said, Robbie, every objective we had for this game as far as building momentum for next year is completely erased if that kid's done for the year. And we just kind of looked at each other, and it's like, we're so unlucky, right? So initially we thought, just based, they only showed the replay one time on press row. I don't know what they did on TV. But it looked like this is going to be, torn ligaments. You hope it's the ankle rather than the knee. But that's how it looked to us. Torn ACL. And he's out there, crawling off the field, basically. And I didn't like the celebration either. Like after he's down and screaming in pain, the celebration, and then there's a tweet that goes out, hey, I didn't mean that. Yes, you did. Just own it. Just own it. Football is a physical game, right? Same thing happened to Sleepy Robinson. Sleepy gets hit in Florida, and the guy jumps up and says, I got him. Probably cost us a chance at the Southeastern Conference Championship that year. So football is a physical game. That's going to happen. Guys are going to hit each other low, right? It's still a very physical game. Acknowledge that it's a physical game. And now all of a sudden you think, oh my gosh, maybe he's hurt. Maybe I need to apologize because people are blowing up your mentions. Well, if you're going to wear the black hat, wear the black hat. Simple as that. Thankfully, Camario was fine. And I say fine, nothing season ending. Obviously, he's going to need a little treatment to kind of get all this behind him. But this is kind of where things are, But the good news is nothing broken, nothing torn. And so we'll bounce back from that. And like all of you, our 2026 season flashed before my eyes. And a lot of people are like, well, Steve, why was he still in the game? It's mop-up time. No, it wasn't mop-up time. It wasn't. I know, again, blessed with the gift of hindsight. You go down, you get a score, and then you get a chance at an onside kick. And I understand how improbable that is, but it was still possible. And if you're a competitor, you're not going to mail it in, with some time left on the clock. You're just not going to do it, And I get it. Discretion's a better part of valor. But you can't play the game hoping you don't get hurt. And every true competitor will tell you the same. I want to be out there with my guy. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. A lot of people are going to be talking about a new year means a new you. Well, that's not necessarily the case. How about a less burden you? Therapy can help more easily identify what weighs you down and holds you back by offering a very unbiased perspective to better understand your relationships, your motivations, and your emotions. I'm a person that absolutely believes in therapy. I think everybody needs someone they can tell everything to. Perhaps you're in that situation too. We're going to ask you to give our friends at BetterHelp an opportunity to help you deal with the triggers in life and the hang-ups, the heartbreaks. BetterHelp makes it easy to get matched online with a qualified therapist. Sign up today and get 10% off at BetterHelp.com. That's better, HELP.com. It doesn't have to be this way. It could be a better version of yourself and a better version of life. Visit BetterHelp.com today. You ever Googled yourself? You may be alarmed to note exactly how much of your private information and data is out there for anybody to access. Whether it be your phone number, your home address, or details about your family. It could be your kids' names, their ages. Whether you agree to this disclosure or not. And that's because data brokers are collecting and selling your information to marketers, scammers, and basically anyone willing to pay. It's the reason robocallers know your name, and while ads seem to follow you on every digital platform out there. Well, Aura fights back for you. They remove your personal data from broker sites and keep it off. Aura also alerts you fast if your information shows up in a data breach or on the dark web. But Aura is more than just data broker removal. It's a full digital security suite that protects every part of your life online. Aura gives you a VPN to stay private, antivirus to block threats, a password manager to keep all your logins safe, and they even give you spam call protection to cut off those stupid scammers. Aura also scans the dark web regularly for your most sensitive information like your social security number, bank logins, passwords, and they will notify you instantly if you are somehow exposed. If your identity is ever stolen, you're backed up by up to $5 million in insurance and 24/7 U.S.-based fraud support to help you recover everything quickly. Other services charge about the same, but they only cover one or two areas. With Aura, you get it all. Data broker removal, credit and identity monitoring, device protection, and fraud support, all with one simple app. Aura removes what is already exposed, protects what isn't, and puts you back in control. Right now, you can try Aura free for 14 days when you visit aura.com/remove. That gives them plenty of time to go ahead and start protecting your data. They can remove your personal information from data broker sites. Sign up today at aura.com/remove and get the peace of mind that your privacy, identity, and finances are all safeguarded. That's Aura, AURA.com/remove. Certain terms and conditions apply. Be sure and check it out today at aura.com. As I want to be competing with my brothers, trying to win a football game, right? And I'm the kind of guy, it's like when I played and I coached, we could go into the last inning, down, 6-7 runs. And I always tell my guys, hey, you know what? They're just ready to get out here, put some pressure on them, get some guys on base. Let's just kind of see what happens. And you know what? Every so often, we'd mount a big comeback and win a baseball game. And so that's part of it. But I think it sends a bad message to your team as a coach when you kind of get up against it and you're like, okay, we're done. Let's send in the scrubs, right? I want those guys to get playing time, but I want the game to be fully decided before I do. That's just my feeling. Maybe you see things differently. You're certainly entitled to your opinion, but I would have had him out there on the field. Looking back at some numbers here, it's so interesting. You go back again how significant that kickoff return was. They had 23 first downs. We had 20. Right? We lose this game by 2 scores. Right? Offensive numbers were pretty comparable. They ran for 148. We ran for 114. I thought we would do better. We threw for 3. They threw for 303. We threw for 294. They had 451 yards of offense. We had 408. They punted 6 times. We punted 5 times. It's crazy. Think about that. And Ethan Pulliam averaging 46 yards a punt. Now, they're Australian, 38.5, just like we talked about. But, again, you work through this. The numbers are very comparable. It really, the number that jumps out to me that is maybe the greatest indicator of who won this football game is third down conversion. We were 3 of 14. They were 9 of 15. We even went for it on fourth down twice, didn't get it either time. And you kind of work through the red zone stuff here. We had 4 scores and 5 attempts. Had to settle for some field goals most of the time, right? And they sacked us 5 times. We only got them once, and that's when we ran Ashford out of bounds short of the stick one time. They're 3 or 4 on the PAT. We had the block. We made the 1, and they went for 2 point twice. We went once. We make it. And then we're 4 for 4 on field goals. Again, great year from Kyle Ferry, but I can promise you Kyle would rather kick extra points than field goals. I can promise you that. Not that he's scared to do either one of them, but the reality of it is he'd much rather have the touchdown too. Camario, 13 of 22 for 241 yards and a touchdown. Coleman Hawk, and thank God we had him, 3 of 5, 53, got sacked twice. Camario, the leading rusher, 18 carries, 63 yards and a touchdown. Very athletic touchdown. And the fact that we had to go back and review that I thought was ridiculous. What an indictment. And it was a terrible crew, too. That's not why we lost. Wake Forest was the better team, and they played better. That officiating crew was terrible. Terrible. From the Big Ten. Terrible. They don't understand the rules of the game of football. I go back to early in the game. We're 2nd and 4, and we get flagged for false start. And then it's 2nd and 10. When did they start adding it? There was like a tax on that. So we go from 2nd and 4 to 2nd and 10, 2nd and 9 and 9/10. Why was it not? It's a 5-yard penalty. Then we had the scenario where we accepted a penalty. They didn't mark it off and had to wait and repunt because of the fact that we asked for a penalty to be assessed. Another time we asked for a penalty to be assessed. They backed it up 2 yards. Right? It's just that kind of stuff. With the amount of money that we're all paying to travel, and not to mention all of you that give money to NIL and to the Bulldog Excellence Fund, for what you're contributing, and fans around the country are on the hook for, we've got to do a better job with officiating. And again, that's not at all why we lost. I'm not using that as an excuse. I think the officiating was bad for both teams. It really looked like we just kind of pulled some guys out of the stands and like somebody had them on the radio, right? It was not a good crew. It was not a good crew at all. But, again, that's just some things that just kind of stand out to me. But I'm excited about where we're going. But I really felt like we were going to have an opportunity to run the football with greater success against them. None of that is an indictment on Camario Taylor or Fluff Bothwell or Xavier Gayton at all. Offensive line got shoved around. And when you want to be a physical football team, it has to start up front. As Chuck Robertson, my cousin, who won a state championship at Taylorsville, will tell you, when I can block you and you can't block me, you can never beat me. And if I can block you, you could put a cheerleader back there at running back and make him an All-American. But if you got an All-American running back and you got a bunch of cheerleaders, with all due respect, playing offensive line, nothing's going to get accomplished, right? And so in that respect, the fact that we got exposed early on as a team that was struggling to stop the run, and we didn't play teams that could exploit that weakness until the last half of the year, probably a good thing, where the schedule may have broken our favor a little bit. But the reality of all this for us is, we've got to consider, what kind of football team we want to be. And with only one portal window, we're going to have to pay at a premium because we're going to get the 2-year losing tax, right? You say, well, Steve, it's been 3. Well, not under Jeff Levy, right? There are a lot of guys out there that, they like Starkville. They like all of you. They love cowbells. But if they got 1 year left to spend, they don't want to be part of a rebuild. It's like, hey, this team went to the playoff last year. I want to go to the playoff too. And you guys got into the Duke's Mayo Bowl because of opt-outs. And I'm sure it was a great trip, but I want to play for something of significance. And so that's a real thing. But we've got to do whatever we have to do to overcome that. Period. Or we're going to be right back in the same situation next year, except it'll be a different coach making the decisions in the portal. That's how significant all this is. It's not as simple as, we'll just do the best we can. But our hit rate last year on portal offensive linemen, absolutely atrocious. And I suspect that is one of those things that has probably flown under the radar for a lot of our fans. Real quickly, we're going to go back and look at this. And again, with the gift of 13 games in hindsight, we can kind of go back and identify a problem that emerged over the course of the season. But there were some things that happened maybe in the spring that maybe was a harbinger of things to come, if that makes sense to you. So we're going to go back and together, collectively, we're going to go back and look at the offensive line portal haul from last year. And we had 34 incoming transfers. So here we go. We had Zach Owens that came in and then, started some games for us, had some good moments, had some bad moments. But I would venture to say we got some value out of him, maybe not as much as we wanted, but we got some value, okay? So we'll put that down as 1, right? 1. Not great, 1. Then you get Brennan Smith. Now, it's not his fault that he got injured, but we really got no value out of him. And again, not his fault. I'm not being critical of him, but he transferred in and was looking to win the starting job at center, didn't, and ultimately got hurt. Then there was Shaquan Bolden, a guy that we really wanted out of junior college. He goes to Purdue, didn't do a whole lot, comes here, did next to nothing. Javen James, I would say we got some value, but over the course of the season, I thought he wore down. Of course, remember, he played every game at left tackle in that win over Arizona State, so we thought maybe we had something. We never even expected him to have to play this year. We signed him as a developmental guy to kind of replace some guys that were leaving the program that just didn't develop. So we kind of signed him as a younger guy, and then lo and behold, he goes out there and plays every snap in a top 10 win, and then kind of regressed after that. But I would say we got some value, got some snaps out of him. Didn't play especially well down the stretch. Then there's Blake Steen. Blake Steen, not his fault, but, he has a hand-wrist injury in the first game of the year. And he was one of our big spring portal guys, if you recall. He was one of the highest-rated offensive linemen in the spring portal. We get him. And he gets hurt, we lose him week 1. Not his fault. It's one of those things that happens. Then we dig down a little bit deeper here. We get to Kobe Keenum, another guy that we chased out of Mars Bible School over in Alabama. Ends up going to Kentucky. Played a little bit over there. Played mostly special teams. Comes in here to compete for the center job. Didn't win it. played for us on special teams, but I would venture to say we didn't get much value out of him. Then there's Carson Lee. Got it transferred in. Another guy competing for the center job. Didn't win it and was processed out after the maroon and white game. Surely you remember all these guys, right? Then there's Jesse Rommel, another guy, transferred in out of James Madison. Expected him to really compete at the guard spot. He was gone after spring. And so you kind of see where we're going here. Trevor Mayberry, and he was the guy we hoped would come in and just take over as a starter at guard. Didn't quite work out, but he did play some for us. I'm gonna put him in the positive category. It's difficult to really put maybe anybody outside of Albert Reese in the positive offensive line category. Cannon Boone, I had some moments, but mainly about these portal guys, we just didn't get a lot of value from them. And so we go out and sign 9 guys, 9 offensive linemen last year out of the portal, and 3 of those 9 gave us really any kind of value. And some of that is a bit of a stretch. And so you go back and think, Brennan Smith will need to get a waiver. He's in the portal. Jaquan Bolden didn't do much. He's back in the portal. Scrolling down here a little bit more, Kobe Keenum in the portal again. Carson Lee, as you guys know, transferred to West Virginia. And then Jesse Rommel transferred out. So I bring that up to basically suggest to you about our hit rate. So again, we signed 9 guys out of the portal last year. 5 of those 9 went back in the portal. Some in the spring, some now. And so you look back in hindsight and it's like, well, Steve, basically we played with what we had last year. Yeah, right? Jimothy Lewis was a returner. Luke Work was a returner. Albert Reese, a returner. Cannon Boone, a returner. And so when you go back and you think, you felt like you had a core nucleus of guys, but you had to build it too deep, and that we go sign 9 guys out of the portal on the offensive line, and only 3 of them really make a positive contribution, the hit rate's got to be better, right? You can't just go out there and sign a bunch of numbers and say basically it's a tryout and we'll flush them out in the spring because you no longer have a spring transfer portal window. And so I think, again, now when you look at the totality of things, and at the end of the day, we really didn't improve the offensive line with the portal class last year. We didn't. We felt like that group, at least our starting 5, would be good. And then some of these guys, of course, didn't get the benefit of spring practice in the Jeff Lebby's offense, so their first look at it is fall practice. So they missed all the reps with their guys. So is it any wonder we didn't build continuity and chemistry? And, of course, you factor in that Albert got banged up a couple of games. And, of course, you lose Steen. So we had to kind of muddle our way through this. And, again, kind of looking back, we're so hopeful about the offensive line this go-around. It has to be better than what it was last time. Our time for our close with Blair, Player of the Day. We can go a lot of directions with this one, but let's give Blair our praise first. Blair's over in Italy and enjoying his honeymoon, and we certainly wish them, the happy couple, many years of success and glorious matrimony. Blair is a mortgage professional. So you need to hit him up at 601-500-2344. Matter of fact, I had somebody hit me up today, said, hey, Steve, we're looking to buy a house. Can you send me Blair's number? I'm happy to do it, right? There's a reason that I work so closely with Blair Chandler. It's because of the fact I know that he can get a good job done for you. Get his 25 years of experience and expertise and know-how working for you to get you into a home. You never know when life's going to throw you a curveball. Could be a scenario where you have a life change, a relationship change, a job change, or maybe you're just ready to buy a home. Maybe it's time to make the dream of home ownership come true for you. Whether it's your first home, your next home, or your retirement home, or perhaps that game day condo that may be more affordable than you think, hit up Blair Chandler at close@BONEYARD.com. You'll be glad you did. Our player of the day, Josh Hubbard, as you guys know, big game against Texas. We'll talk a little bit about kind of the start of SEC play for both teams a little bit later in the show. But career high for Josh. And, man, what a heroic performance against Texas. On the road, a team that we felt like we were, comparable to. But, man, to get that SEC road dub, it's so big. And it just felt like in the final 2 minutes that Hub was just not going to let us lose. Really, all the way back end of regulation and then on into overtime. It just felt like Hub is like, hey, I'll just put the team on my back. Got a lot of help, too. But, man, it just felt like down the stretch he wasn't going to miss. And it's been a long time, right? So you had a guy quite like that you feel like he can always keep you in a game. And granted, it helps having Epps and some others that can contribute. But Josh Hubbard, your SEC Player of the Week, and your Close with Blair Player of the Day. Okay, time for today's Top 10 list. As always, brought to you by CalidoGuitars.com, CALIDO Guitars.com. That's your Mississippi State stringed instrument shop. Whether you're looking for a guitar, a ukulele, a banjo, or any assortment of stringed instruments, you can find high-quality instruments and just an unprecedented level of expertise and know-how and service at Calido Guitars. Again, I wouldn't partner with them if I didn't believe in them. I've got a guitar from them. I've got a gig bag from them. I've got a guitar stand from them and love it all. I got a Steve Vai signature original guitar, just like the one he plays on stage. You could have one of those in your life too. Whether you're looking for a beginner's guitar, an intermediate, or a professional grade guitar, you can find everything you need at CalidoGuitars.com. In addition to that, you get strings, cases, anything you need to be a real guitar player, you can find it there. Now, stop by their expansive showroom in Lake Jackson, Texas, next time you're in the greater Houston area. Afford yourself a little time to go down there and check it out and go pick up a new instrument. And this is a guitar shop run by guitar people, right? It's not like buying a guitar on Amazon where just somebody goes to a warehouse and slaps a sticker on it and says, here's your guitar. Best of luck. They professionally set up your instrument because they're guitar people too. They understand the intimate relationship between you and your guitar. And so they want you to have the best experience possible. I could not recommend them highly enough. If you can't make it down there to check them out, visit them on the World Wide Web, of course, at CalidoGuitars.com, and they're going to give you some incentive to do business with them. Not that you should need it, but if you do, promo code BSR, right? That's going to get you 10% off their already low price. That's the Ken Folks discount. They're going to not charge any sales tax unless you live in the state of Texas. They're going to give you free shipping. In addition to that, they're going to make a 5% donation of your purchase price to the Bulldog Excellence Fund. It's a win-win-win. You win, they win, Mississippi State wins. And when Mississippi State wins, we all win again. Calido Guitars. All right, we talked about this. Guys, I've seen the finale of Stranger Things. I don't know if you guys have. I was excited about it. I really was, but sad at the same time. And I said, you know what, maybe we'll do a Stranger Things top 10. It's going to be a top 8 because they only used 8 songs in the series finale. If you haven't watched it, I encourage you to do so. We watched, when we had our weekend together with the kids and the grandkids, we watched everything that was available together as a family. I guess it was 3 episodes that were released on Christmas Day. We watched it together and then, of course, returned to our own quarters and watched the finale on New Year's Eve, I guess it was. But the days all run together. But I haven't recorded since Wednesday night of last week because, we had the bowl game. So I'm just kind of getting caught up. But here are the 8 songs that were featured. I'm not going to give you any spoilers about the final episode. Not going to do that. But I'm going to give you the songs. So if that ruins the experience, fast forward. All right, number 8, a band that was somewhat influential on some of your friend Kurt Cobain's music. Not my friend, your friend. We're friends, but I've never been a friend to Nirvana. I think some of that is because of the fact that I had an ex that really liked Nirvana, but she was one of these people that kind of rode the trends, which kind of made it offensive to me. And the longer I listened, the more I disliked it. But again, you feel free to like what you want to like. I'm not going to be a music snob here. But the band The Pixies were an influence on Kurt Cobain. I got a lot of respect for Kurt for what he kind of made people move and feel something. I just didn't get it. But here comes your man from The Pixies, number 8 on your list today. Number 7, a song that is epic in many respects. And every time I hear it, I go back to the movie Roadhouse, right? Because remember when Dalton nearly got run off the road, right? Remember our antagonist, that kind of ran the town? He's listening to the Chords classic track, Shaboom, and kind of just weaving all over the road. That's when I hear that song, I immediately go back to that reference. Immediately. It's a legendary song. And I love the phonetic part of it, right? The whole shaboom thing. It's just, there are a lot of songs out there that are timeless. This is one of them. And I'm glad that a new generation is having the opportunity to kind of get to know it. Number 7, the Chords, Shaboom. Number 6, some of you had a chance to see this band in person. I did. They toured Mississippi a lot. They were kind of a college band, I guess, in many respects, but they built a big following, and maybe it's because of the nostalgia aspect of it. I'm talking about Cowboy Junkies. Played at Sharky's, played down on the coast, played in Jackson. And so I think when I hear Cowboy Junkies, it takes me back to that era, that late 80s, early 90s time when they were just kind of making their way. They had a track that made the soundtrack Sweet Jane. It's a little different, it is, but I think you'll have some fun with it. Now, I think you'll know everything else the rest of the way. Even if you didn't know the other ones quite as well, I think you'll know the rest. Number 5, the third time that it was featured in a Stranger Things episode, it's David Bowie's Heroes, because we could be heroes, even if just for one day. And those young people are heroes. And I tell you, one of the things that I have loved about this show is the connection that I've been able to make with my kids around this show, right? So much of the 80s pop culture, the malls, the music, the fashion, it's given us a chance to kind of connect and talk about. So the other day, that was really cool. And guys, you know what? It was a great time to be alive. It was. Of course, in the 80s, we also woke up every day thinking that the Russians may bomb us as kind of consequences of the Cold War. There was that stress and anxiety. We actually had to go buy records, buy CDs, buy tapes. But we also met our friends at Bebop Record Shop, right? You went up there and you hung out. It wasn't just you went to go buy a new album. You went to go see who was out. And I would spend hours in that place socializing with all of you and getting a few girls' numbers along the way. And the next thing you know, everybody hung out at Bebop, and then like with Motley or Rat or Bon Jovi came to the Coliseum, we'd show up, and what do you know? You reconnect with your Bebop Record Shop friends. It was a great time to be alive. And I don't know that we fully appreciated David Bowie back then because, he was really kind of came to prominence in the 70s, but he was also a staple on MTV. And the song Heroes, in many respects, one of the great David Bowie classics. That's number 5. Number 4, and you knew they had to fix in some metal. They had to, right? And it's the Trooper from Iron Maiden. I don't know if you've heard, but me and Roy are going to see Maiden this September in San Antonio with Megadeth and Anthrax. But the Trooper, I have this T-shirt now. The one, I'm going to try to go find the one that I had from high school. That one won't fit me. I'll have to buy a new one. But I haven't been able to find it. It's the Aces High charcoal gray T-shirt. And I will find it before we go because I want to wear that. That was my first Maiden shirt. And there's so many great Maiden covers. But the Trooper, everybody knows it. You know that opening riff right out of the gate. And I thought it fit the episode perfect. Number 3. Now, for those of you that have seen the final episode, you know there is a big event that happens in the Upside Down, right? Hop and them were there, and they needed a record to kind of serve as a timer. And as soon as they turned it on, it was When Doves Cry from Prince. I just elbowed Dana, and I was like, it's perfect. It's perfect. It's very 80s. It's very Stranger Things. And I love the fact, like, my youngest son has really got into Prince in the last few months. And he hit me up. He goes, hey, Dad, I've really gotten into Prince. I'm sharing it with my friends. What are some of your favorites? That is a fun conversation. It truly is. And When Doves Cry, one of the greatest Prince songs of all time, one of the greatest songs of the 1980s, for sure. And so it fit that moment very well. And once you see it, you'll know what I mean. Number 2, talking about a timeless talent. It's Fleetwood Mac's Landslide. And a lot of people have covered this song. And there are other people that say, man, Steve, there's just some songs you don't mess with. And a lot of people think Landslide is one of them. I will tell you, here is what typically happens. From my experience, is I don't care if it's Leanne Rimes or Smashing Pumpkins or whoever, every time somebody covers Landslide, there becomes a conversation. And the kids are playing it in the car, and you're like, Mom's like, hey, you should listen to the original. And the next thing you know, we have a new generation of fans that are introduced to the amazing alto perfection of Stevie Nicks, right? So I think every time it's covered, I think it's just paying homage to one of the best singers of our lifetime, right? And she has become a superstar to a new generation, and I think a lot of it is because of people covering her music. Mia, my youngest daughter, who is at Harvard Law, maybe you've heard, loves Fleetwood Mac, especially Stevie Nicks. And like most girls her age, she talks about the whole Silver Springs live performance. But number 1 on our list, and again, this just kind of shows the majesty and the talent of Prince, because he wrote this song with all of this, emotional lyric stuff that was very common for all of us. Pardon me. Every one of us has dealt with the verses of the song Purple Rain. And then all of a sudden you get to this chorus and like you're so emotionally drawn in, you don't even think about what is Purple Rain, right? What is it? Well, Purple Rain is just Purple Rain, because I never meant to cause you any sorrow, right? And when they play this, the timing of this was very emotional. It's a very emotional scene. As you guys know, Elle and Mike have this very kind of heart-wrenching scene, and this is the song behind it. I thought the selection was absolutely perfect. And the thing that I go back to with Stranger Things, number 1, I think it's done a great job kind of reintroducing 80s culture to young people. But my kids have grown up on this show. Ian was 11 when this show started. Now he's 20. And maybe that says a little bit about the the timing of the production. But the reality of it is it's been an incredible show. And it's allowed me the opportunity to kind of connect with my children over some things from my own childhood. And I think that is a wonderful thing. But I also think, too, it has taught a lot of young people the value of friendship. I think about the ending of Stand By Me when Stephen King is sitting there typing, and, it's like I've had a lot of great friends, but never the kind of friends I had when I was 12. And I think that's part of this, is people say, Steve, was it really like that in the 80s? Yeah, yes, it was very much like that. We were pretty much, as Gen Xers, a generation that kind of raised ourselves. We were kind of the first generation that had working moms. You didn't have a lot of that in the earlier generations. So there were a lot of kids that were latchkey kids. You get out of school and you're kind of by yourself for a while. And if mom and dad got off at 5 or 6, you just kind of let yourself in the house and waited for them to get home. But we also learned to be resourceful. We also were kind of the hired help without any pay at times. But we also didn't have maybe there's surveillance you guys have. What I mean by that is, during the summer, when you left after dinner, you just had to be back before the streetlights came on. And then when you became a teenager, began to drive, you had a curfew at midnight. We didn't have cell phones back then. Man, you talk about trust, right? You talk about a lack of accountability at times too. But, when my mom wanted to find us, she'd have to call around the neighborhood. Hey, have the boys been over there? And then Miss Peggy Lofton would be like, oh, they were here earlier, but I think they went to Tim Stringer's house. Well, then she'd call Joyce Stringer. Oh, well, they were here earlier, and I think they went to Jason Reeves' house. So there was all of that trying to find the kids. And then, of course, there was a standing message. So when you got to Tim's or when you got to Chris's, hey, your mom's looking for you. That's what it boiled down to. Can you imagine, today's parents, how anxious they already are, and you couldn't get a hold of your kids? So there was a toughness about all this stuff, but we kind of learned to take care of ourselves. We weren't as sheltered as many of you. And it's I see the meme out there, or the reel, about us drinking from the garden hose. We were not allowed in the house during the day. If mom was home, she was cleaning. She didn't need us in the house making messes. So we were just kind of left outside. And you know what? We loved every minute of it. And looking back, we appreciate it even more. But you learned the value of friendship. Because you had that friend that maybe had the pool table. Maybe that friend that had the ping pong table. You had that friend that had the basketball goal. And you learned to entertain and occupy yourself. And again, it taught us to be resourceful, but it taught us to rely on other people. And I think that is something that has served my generation incredibly well. Because today everything is about me, me, me. In those days, it was we. It was about us and our own group of friends. We were all in it together. And so, the world will tell you, that, it's all about you, but it's not. I think it's an important lesson when you go back and you think about, Will and Mike and everybody involved. You begin to see how those interpersonal relationships help them navigate through some very difficult times. And of course, it's very exaggerated. But I think that's a life skill that maybe young people of today aren't really developing. Now, they've got other challenges. We didn't have social media. We didn't have 1,000 people just waiting for you to do something stupid so they could put it online and embarrass you. But it was a different, more simpler time. And I think in many respects, a better time. I truly do. And going back, I remember thinking what a big deal it was on Friday night to get pizza in Blockbuster. Before we even had Blockbuster in Mississippi, it seemed like we had a, VCR store, a movie store, and everywhere. And it was a big deal to go rent a movie. It was a big deal. And we had a blast. We had an absolute blast. So that's your top 8 from the final episode of Stranger Things. I hope if you don't know the show, you'll get to know the show. It is a science fiction show, so there's some things that are very difficult to believe because it would never happen. At least we hope not. But I think the fact that so much of the challenges in this were just so over and beyond even adds to the whole value of friendship. Because of the challenges you faced, you had to have tighter friendships. It's true. Roy's gotten us back up to date on Spotify. You can find our great list on Spotify at Dogmatic67, DAWGMATIC 67, and you can follow him on Twitter with that same username. And I'm on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. Man, we love Campus Bookmart. Why? Because they have the things we want. We want more Mississippi State merch. In good times and in bad, we're proud to be Bulldogs. We rep the brand wherever we go. It's not just who we cheer for, it's who we are. That sentiment is shared by the employees at Campus Bookmart, who are Bulldogs too, through and through. They know what real maroon looks like. You don't want to trust your purchases to somebody else and end up with a crimson Mississippi State shirt. Yeah, you've gone through that before, haven't you? Stick with the winners. Stick with Campus Bookmart. Stop by and see them the next time that you're in town. If you can't make it to town, or perhaps game day is a difficult shopping day, visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays. That is BSR. You know what it stands for. Beautiful Steve Robertson. That entitles you to free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than $75, absolutely incomplete. Okay. We'll start with the ladies. We've had a couple of games and SEC plays, you guys are well aware. We opened up with Auburn, and it's an improved Auburn team. But again, we discussed in our preview, did we really know much about them just based on a non-conference scheduling? No, we didn't. But we did find out that we're better than them. Bulldogs win that game 75-53. 75-53. And it really wasn't a game for very long. Bulldogs came out with purpose. They're up 14-7 after one. Up 32-23 at the break. And the Bulldogs win every quarter en route to a 75-53 win. We knew that Caitlin Duhan would get hers. She got 10. Pretty good job defensively against her. And then Harrison Koulibaly with 14. On the Bulldogs side of things, Triana Crisp leads the Bulldogs with 17 points. I don't know if we've said that this year. Desi McFall, kind of a return to form, 14 points in 32 minutes. Madison Francis, another great game, a double-double for her, 13 boards and 12 points. Favor Nwadazi with 9 points and 13 boards, nearly a double-double for her. We had a lot of young ladies get into the game and have an opportunity to get some meaningful playing time, but we win that one. Auburn falls to 11-4, 0-1 in the SEC. Bulldogs advance 14-1, 1-0 in the league. Well, and then we got whacked. We went over to Oklahoma and played number 8 Oklahoma. We discussed on the show the next 3 weeks are going to let us know the quality of our team. And we got smoked at Oklahoma, 95-47. You know what? I thought we might lose. I didn't think it would be by a margin like that. Maybe that says a little bit about Oklahoma, the quality of their team, but it also shows that we've got some things to figure out. We've had a couple of road games against Power 4 opponents. We've lost them both. In the game, Nwadazi with 4 points. You only had one double-digit score for the Bulldogs, and that was Carissa Richardson. So maybe she's kind of starting to find it, right? Off the bench there. She's 7 of 8 from the line and 3 of 8 from the floor. So a lot of her points come via the charity stripe. But, man, State's 2 of 19 in the first quarter. Slightly better in the second, 5 of 18, then back to 3 of 14. We just shot 14 made baskets in the game and a miserable 1 of 25 from beyond the arc for just 4%. On the flip side, they shot nearly 49% as a team. Not exactly lighting it up from behind the arc, but they didn't need to, right? They didn't need to. Now, we'll take some time tomorrow to kind of break down Thursday's matchup against number 20 Tennessee. But as you guys know, this stretch in many respects is going to kind of define our place in the SEC pecking order. We get Tennessee in the hump on Thursday. We travel to Ole Miss on Sunday. We'll have full coverage of that game, in-person coverage. And then Vanderbilt, number 7, comes here, and then number 6 Kentucky comes here. Then we go back on the road and play, Alabama, and then the return game to Knoxville to close out the month. So the month of January, something of real importance for Coach Sam Purcell and his team. And it'll be curious to see kind of what we've learned about ourselves after getting smacked in the face, because you guys know we feel like we should have beat Texas Tech. There is none of that revisionist history about the ball game against Oklahoma. And we beat them last year, and maybe that played into the matters this year. But what's interesting, too, we had some people out there, and I see it in the Facebook groups, and I mean this as kindly as I can, but many of our Mississippi State Facebook fans only are among the least informed Mississippi State fans on the planet. And I know you join groups like that to follow the team. As soon as we lose, people are like, oh, we need to fire Sam. We're 14-2. 14-2. We've been to the postseason 3 consecutive years and won games every year, including last year in the NCAA tournament. So no, Sam Purcell not in any danger of being fired. And let me go ahead and make you guys abreast of something if you don't already know this. Vic Schaefer's gone. Okay, he's gone. He's at the University of Texas now. He's not coming back. Okay, accept it. And what we did with Vic was very special. And, we didn't think we really cared about women's basketball until Vic began winning and competing for SEC championships and national championships. He was a glorified time in Starkville. But that time has passed. And we need to throw our success and our hopes and dreams behind Sam Purcell and the current staff. We're not going to get anywhere rooting for days gone by. It's not going to change anything. Now, jump over to the men's side of things. Bulldogs now 9-5, won 5 in a row. We talked about maybe the Utah game would be kind of a turning point for us. It looks like it has been. Pretty crazy in hindsight to think that we were 4-5. Yeah, 4-5 headed to Utah after losing that game in San Francisco against San Francisco in Tupelo when Josh Hubbard went down just 2 minutes into the game. We ended up losing by 3. And maybe we learned a little bit about ourselves, but we've rattled off 5 straight. And again, not maybe the best of competition, but you win in overtime on the road at Texas, and that makes you feel a little bit better about life. Now, they're 9-5, 0-1 in the SEC. We're 9-5, 1-0 in the SEC. State 48-43 leaders at the break, and then the score flips, basically. They're in the second half. They do a better job defensively. They get us by 5 to force an overtime period. In that overtime period, for a while there, it looked like, hey, we might kind of pull away here and make these final 5 minutes a bit of a laugher. But give Texas some credit. And we had some trouble kind of closing this thing out, too. But I'm right there at the 2-minute mark. State is up 96-90. And you think, hey, we've got this, right? We've got this. Well, then we foul and give them the opportunity to score without the benefit of the clock running. They go 1 of 2 from the free throw line, makes it a 5-point game. Then we turn it over. We get a block, and then lo and behold, Tremont Mark hits a 3-point basket to make it 96-94. And then you think, okay, we're good. No. Then Mark comes up with a big steal, lays it up and in, under a minute to play. It's a tie game. And then Hub, with the big 3-point basket, gives State the lead. Had a little bit something to say about it, too. We get a foul here. And when it first happened, I thought, why are we fouling here? Well, in hindsight, you get caught up in the emotion of it all. Fouling gives them 2 free throws instead of letting Mark shoot up another 3. And he ends up going 1 of 2 from the line. So we get it back. That kind of puts them in a situation where they have to foul. Doesn't quite work out for us. Then Achor ends up fouling Tremont Mark. And again, 1 of 2 from the line. And ultimately, we get a big rebound. And Achor, great presence of mind, gets the ball to Josh Hubbard. They have to foul Hub. And, of course, he knocks in both free throws. The Bulldogs win it, 101-98. They did get a 3-point basket off late, but it was of no consequence. State wins, and again, it's so huge, as you guys know, following Mississippi State all these years. When you get an SEC road dub, it does a lot for the esprit de corps of your program. Josh Hubbard, a career-high 38 points in 40 minutes, shot 31 times, and some of you were a little bit discouraged, but he found it late, and it was 12 of 15 from the charity stripe. Jaden Epps pitches in a career-high 27 points. Yeah, so that's good. And then you get a third double-digit score, Achor. Were you expecting that? Double-double for him, 10 points, 13 boards. And we felt like rebounding was going to be a big part of this thing, and it proved to be, especially late. But it's your +8. And, of course, that leads to some second-chance points, which Mississippi State had 17 of. Texas had some too. But the reality of this is State showed some real toughness and some real moxie in this game. And I think it's fair to say it's our best win, right? I mean, the win at Utah was good, but to pick up an SEC dub is great. Now, tomorrow night, 6 p.m. tip, Humphrey Coliseum, and we'll get the preview up before then. We'll play Oklahoma. And, again, that's a game last year. We went down to Norman expecting to win that game, and, man, they just simply couldn't miss. It just felt like no matter what we did, they had an answer for it. So now we get them at our place, and we'll see what we can do with them. But again, Bulldogs, winners of 5 straight. We talked about, we weren't sure if we could trust this team, but we knew we could trust Chris Jans. That trust is being paid off. Team is playing much better. And again, it helps to have a complimentary score to kind of keep people off Josh Hubbard a little bit. So instead of him being doubled quite as much, we have other scoring options to kind of hold people accountable. So that's your basketball recap. And again, we'll be back tomorrow and talk about the preview of Wednesday and Thursday's game. And hopefully we get back on schedule. Hopefully no more technical problems, knock on wood. If I had some around, we would. But again, thanks as always to Campus Bookmart for sponsoring that segment. Final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. The best place to stay in the Golden Triangle, bar none, when you're bringing a large group to town. Yeah, and you should, right? If you haven't done so already, you should go ahead and make some plans. Starkville is one of your favorite cities on earth. Many of your favorite shops and restaurants are here, and maybe the only time you get to frequent them is on game day. And it's a little bit more crowded. Maybe come up here when things aren't quite as busy. Take some vacation time, come spend a couple days in the midweek, taking maybe a doubleheader men's and women's basketball game. Maybe you wait and do it for baseball. Completely up to you. But the Stark Vegas Clubhouse can accommodate you and your guest. Plenty of parking there. You got the full-service kitchen. You got the wet bar, the back porch area, the fire pit area. This time of year, that fire pit area gets a lot of use. Conversations around a fire, just more meaningful. Just kind of how life works. Now, Google the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. When you do, their Facebook page will pop up, and you can check out pictures of all the amenities available to you and your guests. Just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus. You do your tailgating right there. Save yourself a lot of time and trouble later. Now, also, as part of that Google search, you're going to find some booking options. You can book through Airbnb or VRBO, completely up to you. But if you want to save some money, book through the Evolve website. Promo code BSR10. That's BSR10, the number 10. Gets you 10% off your stay just by listening to this show. How great is that? We've stayed there, had a great time, hope to do it again. You need to make some memories with the people you love the most, too, in the greatest city on earth, Starkville, Mississippi. All right, let's get up to date with our portal comings and goings. We'll start with the goings. We've had a few that have entered the portal since we have been together. Okay, some of these, our decision, others mutual, and some others just, some guys kind of ready to move on. And that's all part of it. But, I'm trying to think, since we were together last, let's see here. Yeah, so Cyrus Reyes, part of Levy's first class. He was a Matt Barnes flip from Memphis on signing day. And has been a special teams guy for us. And I can tell you, everybody likes him. But I just don't think he's ever going to see the field as a regular safety. And I think he knows that, so he needs to go somewhere else. Kai McClendon, another late addition to that class. A guy that played just 1 year of defensive line football and had to play last year in 2024, basically out of necessity as a true freshman. And then in spring, he tears the ACL. A little bit undersized. And like when you point that out, people are like, well, Steve, you're just saying that because you got sour grapes. No, he was undersized before. He just played his butt off for us. But it's not magic, it's math. And so I think Kai's a guy that'll probably find a home in the G5 and probably do exceptionally well. Elijah Canning, another guy, part of that first class. He was committed to Florida Atlantic. When Corey Bell gets hired, he brings him with him. And unfortunately, Elijah got banged up a little bit at the very end of the Duke's Mayo Bowl. So hopefully he's okay. You remember his very first game, he had a pick six for Mississippi State. But it just never worked out. Luke Work, one of those guys, man, you hate to see go. Matter of fact, I would kind of work my way back to him if I could and try to get him to stay. It's a great kid, guy that loves Mississippi State. Got thrown to the Wolves, a freshman at a left tackle. This year we tried to make him a guard and just didn't have a great year. But obviously the market for offensive linemen in this portal is at a premium. And my honest opinion is I think I would get Luke Work back on the phone and say, Luke, let's just figure this thing out and stay here. That was what I would do. You may see it differently. But when you got to go out there and probably get 5 or 6 linemen and you got a guy like him, you already know who he is. You already know what he's about. You know you can trust him. I think I'd try to make it work. And, of course, Seth Davis, a fan favorite. And a lot of this, too, is because, Seth's one of those guys, too, that loved Mississippi State, committed, did what he could to kind of help us recruit. And then he has that just gruesome knee injury, and it's taken him 2 years, and he's still not quite right. And then, to be honest with you, in his impaired condition, State has just simply recruited over him. This year, he's your 14 running back, at best, right? And, with Colin Wilson coming along, and then you add J.J. Hill and Cooper Crosby to the mix, you just feel like Seth is going to get pushed even further down the depth chart. I don't blame him for leaving. The only way that I think that he gets to play is if he leaves. And, again, he's still not quite 100%, and I hate it. Jeff Lebby has talked about it extensively. He's just not quite right. And, unfortunately, there is some concern that maybe he will never regain where he was. And, man, you absolutely hate that. And you hate it for anybody. But when you know what a nice kid Seth Davis is and how loyal he has been throughout this process, it makes it even more difficult to deal with. It truly does. Now, unlike some other people, I don't think that he was going to ever be our starting back. I thought he would always just kind of be a piece. But I hate that he's not going to be able to finish the journey with us. Kobe Keenum, another guy we talked about earlier that came in last year from the portal, right back in there. And listed at 6'4". And, guys, I'll be honest with you, back in the spring, I think I was taller than most of our offensive linemen, which isn't a great thing. It's not. The latest to enter is Montrell Chapman, another JUCO signee, and that's one of those things that we probably need to go back and revisit. We went back last year, hit the JUCO ranks hard to just get some depth, try to get some special teams guys, get some practice players, some back-of-the-roster type guys. And, Montrell Chapman was the guy that kind of played early on, and I think he kind of felt like, I don't want to waste a year of eligibility just playing special teams. I think I've got more in the tank than that. So he's moved on. He did stay with us through the bowl game, so we appreciate that. We wish him the best, a product of South Panola High School. And maybe South Panola's not producing players like they once did, but that's still a good brand of football. Now let's take a look at the ones that have come in. State opens the class with a great transfer, Marquise Johnson. Was at Missouri, and basically he is a plug-and-play guy for Brennan Thompson. Similar skill set. He's a guy that knows Kevin Coleman well. He said that Kevin Coleman encouraged him to come be a part of things at Mississippi State and with Jeff Lebby and this offense. And again, you look at that position, Marquise, Kevin Coleman, Vernon Smith, all very similar. Very fleet of foot, guys that if you miss a tackle, it becomes a highlight reel on the SEC network. Marquise had a good year at Missouri this year, elected to kind of move on. And I've seen some things like some folks on the Missouri side said, well, he kind of cries a little bit when he doesn't get the football. You know what? I'm perfectly okay with that, right? I want wide receivers that want the football. I want wide receivers that can get open. I want wide receivers that we can dial up long-distance plays for. That's what you get with Marquise Johnson. He is a 247 Sports 4-star transfer and a guy that kind of elevated himself on the college level. So your first guy comes in at a position of need, but also comes in from an SEC program. That was a big kind of the joke last year. Brian said, the first transfer can't be some kid from Kennesaw State. Well, sure enough, it was. Javen Williams was. Kind of ironic how that worked out. But you get a Power 4 guy right out of the gate. And State with 6 right now, and everybody play a major college football, right? So we get one on, Sunday, I guess it was. And then we turn around and get Jason Jenkins. And this is a guy, too, last year was one of the highest regarded transfers in the portal as he left Tennessee for Florida State and was one of the highest paid players at Florida State. Has an injury. And the truth of the matter is we're probably not even in the game with him last year. But because of the fact Zach Arnett worked at Florida State last year, that relationship kind of pays some dividends for us. And so we get Jason. Probably a little bit of a discount compared to what he got last year because of the fact he had an injury. It took him a long time to shake it. They tell me he's approaching 100% health now and should be full go in the spring. 6'6", 276 pounds. You like that, right? But he'll be a 5-tech, kind of playing that Jaden Crumity position that you guys kind of got to know when Zach Arnett was here before. That's what he'll do, more of a traditional defensive end. Added to the mix is A.J. Swan. Now, I want to talk about this a little more extensively. We discussed on the show how difficult it's going to be to get somebody to embrace the fact that they're showing up day one as QB2 at best. Because everybody that has watched a Mississippi State game down the stretch understands Kamario Taylor is the future of this program. And so I wondered, what would be the quality of the player that would be willing to come? Well, you get A.J. Swan, a guy that has been a 3-year starter, 2-year starter at Vandy, ends up redshirting at LSU, and then won the starting job at App State, got injured, had multiple injuries in the year, none of them long-term, but it cost him 4 or 5 games down the stretch. But this is a guy that's thrown for almost 4,500 yards and 32 college touchdowns. This is a guy that knows the game. This is a guy that knows the league. Spent 3 years in the SEC. We could not have done better. And again, back to the old Facebook comments, I see people, well, this is underwhelming. And let's be honest about this. You didn't know who he was until he committed, and you clearly didn't do any research. Some people have become so addicted to pain that they want to throw a wet blanket over everything. But if you thought we could do better than A.J. Swan, a 3-year starter, and a guy with SEC reps under his belt as our backup quarterback, you're kidding yourself. Who did you think why didn't we go play top dollar? What top dollar quarterback is going to want to come here when there is an incumbent starter that is a freak of nature? Get the net, man. What is wrong with you? It's kooky talk, man, to think we could have done better than this. We simply couldn't. This is a best-case scenario. And it's also the first quarterback that Jeff Lebby gets to campus and he closes him out. So great job by the staff. Today, we had 3 commitments. Mario Nash Jr., and listen, he's still a developmental piece, all right? If he contributes next year, that's great, right? But was a freshman this year at Florida State, longtime Mississippi State commitment out of Kemper County, ends up flipping to Florida State. You hate that aspect of it, but he was the highest rated offensive lineman last year. He's rated as a 3-star transfer, and that's because he just hadn't been able to do a whole lot yet. But the reality of it is you get him back, again, a Mississippi kid, and I don't want a guy just because he's from Mississippi, but I think from a PR standpoint, this bodes pretty well, right? Not to mention the fact he's a talented guy, and I think long-term going to be a good player for Mississippi State. But to get him back, I think sends a very positive signal. And I like Mario a lot, too. He says he's probably going to be a center or a guard. Might take him a little while to kind of get settled in that respect. Probably a 2 deeper this year. And then we'll see what happens the next couple of years. But, this is a guy we really wanted last year. Really wanted him. And now we get him, with the benefit of a year of college experience under his belt. Caleb Singleton, a cornerback from the state of Florida that played extensively as a true freshman this year. A guy that has some length to him, 6'1", 188 pounds. Played in 5 games, so kind of exhausted the redshirt year. But, he's got 4 years to play 3. We're expecting him to come in and challenge for that spot opposite Kelly Jones. And, of course, Kelly Jones announces his return. Isaac Smith announces his return. You got some good players that are returning. And those are 2 guys right there. When you begin to think about it defensively, you would not have been able to replace Isaac Smith or Kelly Jones in the portal. You just wouldn't. Not to mention their love for the university and their knowledge of this roster, this coaching staff, and this team. You couldn't put a price tag on that. But Caleb has been told, hey, we're expecting you to come in and compete for that corner spot opposite Kelly Jones. Caleb comes from great family bloodlines. His brother Sam is at Florida State. So that's, again, comes from a football family. And then Quentin Taylor Jr. He's 6 foot, 205 pounds, plays corner, but could be a safety and is willing to play wherever he needs to. Played extensively this year at Iowa State. And, of course, that whole roster is in the portal with the exception of a handful of guys. Of course, the coaching change happens, and then everybody opts out of the bowl game, and then a lot of those guys at Iowa State are like, I'm going to get a head start on the portal. So we add Quentin Taylor, another 3-star type guy, but from Iowa State. So again, it's kind of running down the half dozen here. You got 2 guys from Florida State. You got a guy from Missouri. You got a guy from Syracuse, a guy from App State, a guy from Iowa State. So it's not like we're just kind of mining the FCS ranks, or really even the G5. And that's one of the things that we've talked about. I like the ascending player, unless it's a younger guy that is a developmental piece, and you kind of know that right out of the gate. But I think there's been a good statement, but we still got a lot of work to do. And some people say, okay, Steve, with these 2 defensive backs in, are we done at corner? I suspect we are. I think if you can find an impact safety, you probably take one there. I think that's fair. You know, Braylon Womack's a guy that we expect to factor in maybe as a 2-deep or as a true freshman. The guy's a freak of an athlete too. You need a defensive tackle. You need an edge. We're not chasing linebackers, despite the fact what some other people have tried to suggest. We're great at linebacker. We feel good about the young guys that we have coming back. And, of course, Zach Arnett's been evaluating those guys for a month now. And so if Arnett and Matt Brock are like, hey, we're good with these guys, then we don't need to go spend money on that, considering that our more immediate needs are at offensive line. We're going to have to pay a premium on the offensive line. I don't know that we take another wide receiver unless a difference maker comes along. We're not going to take a running back. We're good at running back. Probably take a tight end. But the biggest thing we're looking for is offensive line. We've taken care of the backup quarterback spot. We've replaced Brennan Thompson. Got to get 5, maybe 6 offensive linemen. But on the defensive side of the football, the needs aren't quite as emergent with so many guys returning. Of course, Will Woodson's expected back too. Calvin Dinkins, those guys, DJ Reed. We're going to return some guys there, but we got to add some impact. And I think an edge and a defensive tackle, that's really what you need there. But really the crux of what's left to come is going to be offensive linemen. And it has to be, as we've discussed on this show extensively. The quality of the 2026 roster is going to be incredibly dependent on the portal success we have at the offensive line position. And so a lot of people kind of wonder, hey, well, where we are, what's next? And that's just kind of give you an idea, kind of where we are, what's next, and what to expect kind of moving forward. And, we're not going to sign as many incoming transfers as we have outgoing transfers. We obviously had a really good signing class, not a great one, but a really good one. So we've got to somehow be a little less portal reliant in the years ahead, but the portal's always going to be a part of things. And to kind of catch you up to speed too, we've had some outgoing Bulldogs that have made their decisions as well, and we certainly wish them the best. And we haven't tracked this maybe as closely as we have some other things. But Jerron Glover, of course, a wide receiver that transferred in last year from Michigan State, did very little. He's headed to South Florida. Stonka Burnside, we love Stonka. Wish him the best. He's headed to Memphis with Charles Huff. And then Alex Lopez, who was a former walk-on offensive lineman, has signed with Western Kentucky. So wish those guys the best, and there's a lot of guys out there that still got a lot of things to figure out, and there's some young guys out there that really don't have any tape, and so you would kind of wonder, what's going to happen with them. We had some guys last year, some young guys that got processed out that ended up going a junior college route, 1 or 2, but that's just the nature of things these days, without any question. But I'm happy with what we've done so far. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm jumping up and down, with glee, because we have so many other emergent needs. And I'll feel a lot better once we kind of have 3 or 4 offensive linemen in the boat, And one of the names that I'm watching, a guy that I really liked out of Captain Shreve High School a couple years ago, is Lionel Prudhomme. Went to Arkansas. When Cody Kennedy was here, we thought we had a good chance to get him. We ultimately lose him to Arkansas and Sam Pittman. Well, now he's in the portal. He's expected to visit later in the week. So that's an aspect to kind of look forward to. We really would like to get him. And I think that's one of those things now when you begin to think about our needs, you got to go get him, right? You liked him and he liked us, but didn't like us quite enough. So we've got to go close the gap and get him. And I think that guy's got NFL talent. And because I think that, I think there are other people that know the game better than you or I do that probably believe that as well. And so that's going to require a financial commitment. We've got to be ready to make that. And there are a lot of people out there that have been told, hey, your contributions have a chance to make a difference, and it's got to be on the offensive line. And a lot of people, again, very hypercritical of Phil Oldholt, and I'm going to defend Phil a little bit here. And I want you to stay here with me. I'm not going to sit here and defend our play down the stretch. I'm not going to do that because it wasn't good enough. Phil got here last year after the winter portal was closed. He inherited some guys that were too small to play in this league, Carson Lee, Jesse Rummel. Inherited those guys, had to flush them out and then get his guys in. Trevor Mayberry is a guy we end up getting, Zach Owens, Blake Steen. But those guys didn't get the benefit of spring practice with Phil Oldholt or Jeff Lebby or this offensive system. Mayberry got a little bit. But you understand what I'm saying. And so then when you put these guys out there in fall camp, and it's just taken a long time for us to come together. Well, now, this transfer portal situation, Phil Oldholt's got a full year of work in Mississippi State under his belt. He knows what the roster looks like, what he has returning. He knows what this offense requires. And so he is going to have to be a big part of things. And somebody asked me on the message board today, and I would love to know who started this rumor. So if you know, DM me on Twitter. I'd just love to know. Said that we're keeping Phil Oldholt away from portal visitors? What a stupid, stupid statement. It's not even close to being true. But what's happened is some people get so bought into their narrative, they start feeding you another line of BS to support their narrative. It's, oh yeah, Phil Oldholt's going to be fired. And then I report, no, he's not. So they can't back away and admit that they're wrong. So they're trying to act like that Jeff Lebby and the staff are going to disrespect their offensive line coach? And what message does that send to you can bring in transfer guys, but they don't get to meet their offensive line coach? Do you hear yourself? Do you know how stupid that sounds? Why would anybody come here if they didn't get a chance to sit down and visit with the guy that's going to be coaching them? Are you kidding me? But, again, there's so many people out here that, they want to play expert on the internet. That's what they want to do. And they expect you to take them seriously. Oh, just trust me, bro. Trust me. I got a guy that texts me. I got a guy on the inside, see? But you don't. Go kick rocks, man. They just make this stuff up. And it confuses our fans, and that's the thing that pisses me off the most. It's not even well intended. Right? It's not a situation where they're telling you something that is a benefit to you. They're just suggesting because they're self-loathing. And again, please encourage your daughters and granddaughters to marry positive Mississippi State folks so we can breed that negative gene out of the fan base. It's so ridiculous, man. It is. And what do you gain from it? What do you gain from making up some, fishtail like that makes no sense whatsoever? And, of course, I interviewed Mario Nash today. Of course, Phil Oldholt, very much involved with his recruitment, very involved with his visit. But sources, right? You got your sources. You got nothing, man. You got your imagination. And that's the problem with the internet, right? That's the problem, is that the best and worst thing about the internet and social media is that everybody can use it, right? It's a great thing that everybody can, and it's a bad thing that everybody can. If I could figure out how to delete some people's Twitter accounts, the world would be a better place. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. Not that we believe in censorship, but some of you, you would do a disservice to this fan base and to this program and to this university because you get so incredibly invested in your narrative, you can't admit you're wrong. And so you just keep piling on. You just keep piling on and feeding that fire. And one day, maybe you'll be right about something. Maybe. Maybe. Unless you've taken it from somebody else, it'll probably be the first time, right? And so I'm a guy that believes in unity, and I don't think that any of that stuff is helpful to Mississippi State. I think when we go out there, we got enough problems as it is without manufacturing some more misery. But there are some people out there, that's their currency. They need something to gripe about. They have to have it. You know, I got some friends like that. I got some friends in the media like that. They just kind of laid the groundwork to come back and say, I told you so. So it's a win-win for them. If we win, they're happy. And if we don't, then they can say, I told you so. So then it becomes a personal win. I got people like that all around me. But I can tell you, I just think that's a miserable way to go through life. I do. Let's just focus on what is and not what we would say it is or should be. Let's just focus on the facts. Fall in love with the truth, not the narrative. That's an incredible thing. It truly is. All right, I'll be back tomorrow. We're going to talk a little basketball, and you're not expecting any more portal commitments tonight, but perhaps we get one tomorrow. You know, we'll see. You know, we've hosted several visitors, and, you know, we'll kind of see what we got kind of moving forward. There's a Cody Sigler out of Arkansas State, kind of watching him a little bit too. It's kind of one of those things for you guys to kind of watch out over from New Hope, Alabama, by way of Arkansas State. He was a guy that we thought was going to head to Auburn, but he ends up, for some reason, didn't sign with them. Now he's here. So maybe Mississippi State can close him out. That'd be very significant. And again, fill one or more of those defensive spots. But, you know, by and large, I feel like we're belaboring the point, but I can't illustrate this enough. We've got to win in the portal on the offensive line side. That's going to lead to us winning on the field next year. So watch that very carefully. If you hadn't done so, go to dutynoblebook.com. You get signed copies of all my sports titles. Of course, that's Flim Flam, Stark Villains, Alpha Dogs, Dogpile, and every Bulldog needs a copy of that. And, of course, The Dude. I probably learned more writing The Dude than anything I've ever written. And the most important thing I've written is the personal memoir, When the Bottom Falls. It's not a sports book. There's a little sports in there, but it's basically a book about life. And if you need some encouragement in life, I would encourage you to buy that book. Or if you know somebody else that needs some encouragement, buy it for them. Get signed copies through the website. Come join us at True Rest Floats by Starkville. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and that social media team does a great job. But the reality of it is, it's not just the social media stuff. It's about your personal well-being. If you're a person that just kind of needs a break, we may be able to help you. We've helped many others, whether you've got chronic pain or anxiety or just need a break. Come check us out. And you go to visittruerest.com. You can learn more information there. I floated earlier this week. Felt great. Then I floated yesterday. I almost went again yesterday. Had one of the best floats of my life on Sunday. And it was spectacular. Spectacular. It does a lot for me. It's changed my life. It's one of the reasons we opened the franchise, because I wanted you all to have this experience too. We had so many people from the Boneyard and Gene's page that have come. We've had so many Boneyarders come, they had to add that to the drop-down menu of how'd you hear about us. Super job. And thank you guys so much for the support. Dial 662-268-7601 to learn more or to schedule with my lovely wife, Dana. And come join us over at genespage.com. You'll be glad you did. That's genespage.com, the Mississippi State affiliate for 247 Sports, the longest running and greatest Mississippi State website in the history of the world, in the history of Al Gore's internet. Some others have made the claim, but they are pretenders to the throne. Come be with us over at genespage.com. Stay up to date. Yeah, over 4,000 stories last year. 4,000, right? So we're always going to have you some Mississippi State meat to gnaw on. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.